And Ed Miliband has promised to cut university tuition fees from £9,000 to £6,000 per year. Let's get more now on the Labour leader's pledge to cut tuition fees. While it's good news for students, where will the money come from? Joining us to discuss that in a little bit more detail, Adeyemi from the Young Fabians, and from Bristol, the pensions expert Tom McPhail from Hargreaves Lansdowne. Thank you both for joining us here on Sky News this afternoon. To you first, Tom, if I may. Suggestions are that it will come from pensioners. Pensioners do tend to get hit quite hard, don't they?
I think they're a convenient piggy bank for politicians to dip into whenever they want to try and pay for some new pre-election promise. And there is a large amount of money in the pension system, so it's understandably attractive to them. But there needs to be a large amount of money in the pension system because we've got millions of people to provide for in retirement. And the worry is that it seems like an easy win, but of course that money will be needed later on.
Why is that fair, would you say, Eddie?
I think it's fair because if you look at since 2010, the basic state pension has been risen 16%, and real wages or welfare reforms or anything for the students or younger people has been disproportionate. They've been disproportionately hit. So I think it's fair that the burden of austerity is shared amongst the British citizens, and not just younger people are hit all the time. I mean, they're squeezed for jobs. They need to be competitive in the global economic market. So I think it's fair that we start looking at other sectors of society who can contribute to austerity measures.
What do you think, Tom?
OK, we needed to raise the state pension because it had fallen behind, but of course what Labour's talking about today is private pension savings, and that affects not just the people in retirement now, but workers, people in middle incomes trying to provide for their own retirement in the decades to come. And cutbacks to pensions now would discourage people from saving, discourage them from providing for tomorrow and from being responsible, and that's not a good answer. This is not the place to go for to find the money to pay for these reforms.
That seems
sorry,
go on, Eddie.
It's unfair that the political system hands out favours to older people, and younger people haven't really been looked at in this debate. I think it's time that for a fairer society, we look at things that we can offer younger people who are hard hit by wages, by jobs. They're still living at home. Wealthy people have the highest income generation for a while, we've seen, and I think it's time that we looked at not just giving for the currency of electoral votes, but we actually start looking at policies that can improve the working conditions and the lives of young people.
Tom?
Well, and that may well be true, but
it is
discouraging
true.
Those younger people and those middle earners and those middle income people from saving for their retirement isn't going to help anybody. And these Labour plans aren't just about the older members of society, they aren't just about the wealthier members of society. They're targeting the millions of ordinary people who want to save for their retirement. So this isn't some sort of conflict between the older workers and the younger workers. Younger workers would be hit by these Labour plans. They would find it harder to provide for their own retirement.
No, this isn't, sorry, this isn't about saving. This is about intergenerational equity, if you will. It's about fairer things for younger people, not just the people who save. And yes, we do want to encourage saving, but with the global economic climate and deflation all around, you know, I mean, even Australia, Greece, everywhere is suffering. I think it's time we look at the wider debate of what we're actually offering to young people, and not just offering favours and free bus passes and energy bills and savings for older people. I think it's fairer that we look at all realms of society.
Spoken like a young person there,
it's
Tom.
It's absolutely right that we need to...
I am right.
Well, it's absolutely right that we look at the interests
Yes.
of young people, but raiding people's retirement savings is not the answer to that problem. Raiding people's retirement savings just pushes the problem further down the road. It will still be the problem further down the road how we provide for people's retirement.
Sorry, but my question
won't fix that problem.
My question is, how many benefits do we want to give people over the age of 55, over the age of 65, and squeeze hard-working younger people? I think it's fairer that those who are hoarding their savings rather than can contribute to society, and those younger people have more to contribute, perhaps, who are harder working, who can stimulate the economy again and spend cash and reintroduce it into the economy, are given a fairer share of benefits.
Tom?
Yes, but as I'm trying to point out, this is not about, the Labour plans aren't targeted at older people. They're not targeted at people in retirement. They would affect these same young people that you are rightly concerned about, because it would affect their ability to provide for their later years. And that is not a good solution. So you would actually be penalising the people that you're trying to help. You're discouraging them from looking after themselves. That's not a good answer.
Sorry. Not entirely. I mean, if you look at the repayment of student loans, the Institute of Fiscal Studies did a study where we see that it's actually only the top 20% of female graduates who repay back their loans. And I mean, I'm not a Labour spokesman, and the young Fabians represent young people all across the political spectrum. But what I think our members would like to see, which is what this policy is addressing, is looking at ways of introducing benefits for younger people, and looking at the higher education financial system and the way it's financed, and trying to address it. The government will be saddled with debts if we continue with the current funding mechanism as it is now, and reducing the tuition fees is one way to address the balance, and the balance of access to higher education services.
Tom?
All of which may be true, but raiding the piggy bank isn't the solution to that particular problem.
Yeah. I can't get a word in edgeways here, boys, can I? So, Eddie, I want to put it to you that what we're hearing there from Tom is the fact that, OK, young people are finding themselves in a position where they have to pay so much more for their school fees, their university fees, just at the moment. But in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they're going to need a pension. If that pot continues to be raided, there isn't going to be enough money. So whether they're supported at that end of their life or at the younger end of their life, they still need to be supported somewhere, surely.
Sure, and the intricate details about this needs to be addressed. But I think I take issue with the use of the term raided. I think raided is the wrong term here, because, you know, for a cohesive society, and again to look at the generational contracts and how you transfer wealth from one generation to the next, I think we need to look at fairer distributions. And for those who hoard their finances and don't stimulate the economy and reintroduce the economy, we need to look at ways to introduce that. I think a lot of the benefits that the current coalition government have given to older people, the bond savings from George Osborne, don't benefit younger people.
I'm just going to interrupt you there, because you said hoard their finances. I suppose, Tom, you might see it as saving for a rainy day?
Well, absolutely, and of course that money which is paid into pensions is ploughed back into the economy. A lot of it ends up being invested in UK companies, which helps stimulate and grow the economy. But we keep coming back to the same problem, that if people don't make provision for their retirement, young people as well as older people, if they're not saving and making provision for their retirement, that causes problems for the whole economy. So whilst there may be issues around the provision of tuition costs, raiding people's retirement savings to pay for it is not the right answer.
Sorry, again, I take issue with the use of the term raiding. I think this is looking at a fairer distribution of wealth within society, and perhaps hoarding is the wrong term to use, but I use that term because the transfer of wealth from those who keep their finances and their wealth to the next generation.
Sorry, are you saying it's inappropriate for people to save and invest and to provide for their retirement?
No, absolutely not.
People shouldn't
absolutely
save.
Not.
Well, of course they should save.
Absolutely.
So, but you use the term hoarding. This is a responsible activity that people need to do. Otherwise, they become a burden on the future taxpayers, and the children of tomorrow will end up having to pay for the pensioners who didn't save for themselves, and that's not good for anybody either.
Tom, look, saving is important. And I'm not saying hoarding to not reintroduce into the economy, but I'm saying that the history and evidence shows us that the transfer of wealth that people keep to themselves isn't redistributed to society fairly. And what I'm saying is this policy and looking at the wider intergenerational equity, if you will, is a welcome debate into how we are looking after young people in society. Of course, I'm not saying that people who save shouldn't be welcomed and we shouldn't encourage that, but I'm introducing nuance into the debate which suggests that younger people and tax breaks for them and incentives for them should be looked at, as well as the free bus passes for the older generation.
Final thought from you, Tom?
And this is the problem. Okay, and what Labour is proposing to do is to take away those tax breaks which will encourage these young people to save for their retirement, and that again is not a good thing to do.
Good to talk to you both. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Sky News this afternoon. Just managed to get a word in edgeways then. Did you see that? Nigel Pearson has tweeted, he says they're not raiding pension pots, reducing tax relief on people earning over £150,000 per annum from 45% to 20% is fair. That's the way that Nigel sees it. Some Home Truths has also tweeted this afternoon saying, so come April, everyone over 55 takes all the money out of their pension plan. I don't think it's quite as simple and straightforward as that. Otherwise, everybody would be driving Ferraris, wouldn't they? So let us know your thoughts on that, or indeed any of the stories that we're covering here on Sky News this afternoon.